Okay, Skyworks, SWKS, on the NASDAQ. It's one that we've definitely been supporting for quite a while. It's acting great this month. It's one of our best performers. It's acting great today. It's up 4.5%. I just want to reiterate and make sure people aren't getting out just because of the little pop here. It's a 5G play. It's really just getting going in that regard. It's been actually quite a successful company for the last, say, 10 years. And 5G is right in its wheelhouse. It's one of the key players in developing the technology that allows this to happen. They're in iPhones. 50% of their revenue is actually from iPhones, which is, I have mixed emotions about that. And as an investor, it's great that you're in that ecosystem, but it's also a risk. If Apple wants to change their design and they don't include you, there's not a lot you can do. Now, they have other phone companies as clients as well. They're in the Internet of Things. So every appliance and thing you could think of that could possibly be hooked up to the internet, you can put it one of these sensors, antennas, microchips that Skyworks makes, and they're going to do just fine. So it would not be Armageddon if they lost Apple. It would hurt though. So okay, I do want to go over kind of a little bit of our history with it, at least since we did our videos. So we started our videos back in November 2018. We got around to doing a Skyworks video on March 2019, at least on YouTube. Actually, I think we did one before that, but not on YouTube. We had a dedicated website, decided to go exclusively YouTube. So, okay, so Skyworks is a player in 5G. We're basically saying, hey, it's a good company, let's get in. Started acting really well. Of course, that always feels good when you put one out and it starts acting well. But it didn't work out for long. On May 6th, stock came down a little bit, and maybe his arrow's a little bit off, but it definitely took, a bit of a hit pretty quick. And we said it came back to earth, but could go skywards again. Okay, so we were still supporting it, in other words, and that support was maybe a little early because the stock came down again. Only 10 days later, we were back, touting the stock again, and it got caught up in the Huawei ban. So there's trade war and all these other things going on, but Trump specifically does not like Huawei. In fact, there are some actually pretty good reasons to not like Huawei. There's some security risks with them and stuff, so they banned anyone selling equipment to them or supplies to them to build their phones. So that hurt because it's a client of Skyworks. But it didn't last long. It did come down a little bit longer, and then on June 4th, they put out their earnings, and it was just a really good one. I saw, especially they had been saying, there's a slowdown in chip space in general. We're kind of at the end of the cycle of 4G. There was a lot of inventory, and 5G's around the corner. So it was a bit of a dynamic of overbuilding the 4G, and then should we even bother? Should we just flip over to the 5G? So it was a bit of a dynamic, but that's a short-term problem. And then it started acting well again, and then not too long after that, the ban on Huawei was lifted. So there was July 5th. And the stock popped, and we were saying, okay, that's definitely a cue to get back in, even after the pop. And again, it started acting well. We always love that when we get out, but didn't last too long, and it kind of meandered back down. And ever since then has actually been really strong. So on November 13th, earnings came out. The stock had actually beat, but if you can see where that arrow is, it's pretty close to, I try and get it right on where it was. It's hard to do that, but it didn't actually act that well. It was kind of disappointing. I was like, that actually beat. I don't know what the problem is. I thought it looked still good in our models. It was, I don't know. What can I say? The return on capital did come down a little bit, but it was so well telegraphed. And you should have expected it, and I certainly did, and I wasn't disappointed in that report at all. And 5G's around the corner, so it didn't take too long. Investors kind of got on board, and then there was a at the beginning of this week, there was an upgrade from one of the big houses saying, "Oh, it's time to get into Skyworks." So that helped as well, and I love that when the big guys come in well after us, and we're already there. We've been telling our clients for a long time, so that's great for us. Let's look at it in our work, and here you see the return on capital profile. It's quite a good profile. Really building their business from 2008 onwards, and just building that return up year in, year out. Now, it did peak around 2015. Now, you can imagine that was probably the peak in the iPhone as well. So it kind of is no coincidence. But look, the return only has come down to 18%. And this is supposed to be a slow period. So that's a first world problem to have. If you're only coming down to 18 in a slow period. I think they're getting their act together, not just with Apple, but with other products, and kind of hedging their bet and saying, okay, wait, we can't just be an Apple company. So I'm very pleased with that kind of progress. I'm very pleased with how it's acting lately. Been actually quite strong. So, we're just at the beginning of 5G. It's had a nice little run here, but I just don't think it's a signal to sell. I think it's just way too early. I think we're going to have some 5G winners and losers, no question. But Skyworks has been fantastic for every generation. It started when they first put their products into phone. They're getting like $2 per phone, and then their volumes went up, and they started to get more per phone, and I think it's all the way up to $18 a phone now. And you can only imagine if that trend continues, 5G is only going to be better for Skyworks. In the phone business and in the Internet of Things. So I think you got to stick with it. I think it's a long-term play. Nice little pop. Short-term is always great, but not a signal to sell, in my opinion. Thanks for watching our investment video. If you want to improve your portfolio returns, simply subscribe. Or if you're an investment advisor or a retail investor and you want help with your portfolio more directly, we can help you with a managed account and manage each and every trade for you.